Hello everyone, today I want to talk to you about the new wall mechanic or the new tactics that were flaccidly inserted into Tekken 7 with patch 5.0. I guess we haven't decided on a name for this new mechanic as a community yet. I know some people call it the wall stun, some people call it the wall stagger. I think I'm going to refer to it as the wall... because that's kind of what I feel that it is. It's this tired gust of hot air that doesn't really do anything. Basically, my thesis statement with this video is that this mechanic does nothing and changes nothing about the game, which kind of makes it interesting. It begs the question, why was it put in the game if it literally does nothing? But let's give you a couple of examples and explain what I mean, because I do have something I want to say about this. I'm not just being overly recreationally critical of Namco. But let's begin by talking a little bit about Leo here. So Leo's new wall stun move is Bokuho 3, which looks like this. It's this powerful duckable homing high, and as you can tell right here, when it connects on block or when it gets blocked, it's going to cause the wall stun here on Shaheen. So the theory is that this happens, and then I can go in and mix, for example, a down forward 3 with one of my powerful lows, like a down back 4, right? Looks really good. Well, let's ask the question, what did Leo's Bokuho 3 do before this patch was implemented? Well, this move has always been plus on block. In fact, it was plus 9 before the patch. And when you're plus 9 in this game, that means that you get to apply a mix-up. There's almost nothing your opponent can do. They can't really move away. They're not really going to be able to armor through reliably. They are basically locked down and have to eat the mix-up. So if you were with your back against the wall and Leo pressured you with this and you blocked it before the patch, then Leo was going to apply pretty much the exact same mix-up. Effectively, this situation hasn't changed at all because this move was modified. And it's interesting, it's almost exactly the same thing. But let's talk about some other examples, because this wall mechanic, there are all kinds of moves that have it now, but they are all kind of shitty and pointless in different ways, which is kind of funny, right? So let's move away from the wall a little bit and talk about Shaheen, right? So Shaheen, let's record something here. His new wall stun move, by the way, is Snake 2. So we're going to access Snake from this 3 kick here, which is called Sandstorm. And then I'm going to go for one of Shaheen's mix-up mids afterwards. Let's say, for example, a down forward 3 would probably be a good option. So I'm going to record that now. And then I'm going to go straight for that. Okay, so that's recorded. Let's see what happens here. So first of all, before the patch, Shaheen's Snake 2 was again very plus. It was plus on hit, right? And this stagger happens on hit as opposed to on block, like in Leo's case. It was plus 7 to plus 8. And again, that is a huge chunk of advantage and basically means that Shaheen is going to get to mix now. Let's look at what happens when this stagger thing happens in the open now against Leo. We have to make sure that we get hit by it. And as you can tell right here, the stagger happening, especially if I hold back and especially if I backdash, which you actually do have time to do here, Shaheen's mix-up is completely going to whiff, and I get a big fat whiff punishing opportunity as the opponent, which means that as a tool for creating a mix-up, this move has actually become a lot worse in the open, and it's very dangerous to use for that now. So while it causes this stagger and more of a lockdown and hard mix-up at the wall, it has made the move worse when it's used in the open. So again, it kind of feels like it makes it a little bit better sometimes, a lot worse sometimes. Does it really have a point? Is it actually adding something? Is it significantly nerfing the character? What's really going on? It's an example of a wall stun inclusion that, again, I think doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But let's talk about a couple of other options. For example, there are a bunch of characters in this game where the wall stagger inclusion was just a straight up nerf to the character, which is also kind of interesting. So let's go and fetch Master Raven right here. So as you probably know, one of the main reasons you've had to respect Master Raven's back turn stance in the past is that it has this armored 1+2 move. And this armored 1+2 move used to knock down and give you guaranteed stuff, such as this back 3 on the ground for big damage. And it wasn't super punishable either. It was unsafe, but not super punishable. What a fantastic move to force opponents to respect Raven's back turn. And she spends a lot of time in that stance. Well, as you can tell, this move no longer knocks down or gives you anything guaranteed, but it will cause this wall stun at the wall. Now, if this were just causing the knockdown that it did before the patch, not only would I get guaranteed damage on the ground, which is basically the same thing as applying a mix-up and doing it successfully and getting a hit, I then also, of course, get to apply Oki against my opponent as they try and get off the ground. So I got like a successful mix-up and another mix-up on top of that before for hitting with this move, and now all I'm going to get is this one mix-up. So this is a significant nerf to the move, and a huge nerf to this character, because it was one of the main reasons you wanted to, again, respect this back turn stance that is very crucial for Master Raven as a character. And so the wall stun being added, or the wall stun property being given to a move, if the move was already good before, has actually significantly weakened a bunch of moves and nerfed some characters really hard. Big examples are Master Raven, Bob, whose Headbutt 4 used to be one of the best wall splatting tools in the game. It no longer wall splats, it only does this thing. And then, of course, probably the biggest example, Devil Jin. He got the wall stun mechanic added to a move that used to be one of the best mix-up mids in the game because it knocked down, and now it doesn't do that anymore, which I think is really interesting. So in a lot of cases, they've put a completely new mechanic in the game, and the only thing it's really done is stolen away one of your favorite and most important things that you did previously, right? So the most impact, as far as I can tell, the wall stun mechanic is having so far is that it's reducing the fun factor and the power of some moves. It only really comes into play in a huge way when it's nerfing characters, which again is really weird for a new mechanic to do nothing for a bunch of characters and then make some other characters significantly weaker. Some of the wall bounce moves are just straight up dog shit and don't work because they're just bad moves. And I want to talk a little bit about Miguel here. So Miguel's new wall bounce move is the Savage 1+2 charged version on block. And you'll be forgiven for not knowing that this move exists because it doesn't see use, because it's terrible. Let's actually reverse the positioning right here, and I'm going to be on the receiving end of this new move. So let's record the move being done here. So we're going to access from a down forward one, let's say, and then we're going to do this new charge move. And there it goes. So that's recorded. Now, the problem with this move is that it didn't see use previously because it's so slow. It's extremely vulnerable to all kinds of things, especially movement, but of course also lows. It winds up for something like 40 frames, and human beings can react to around 20 frames, a little bit more. So you can see that this move is coming, and you can do a lot of really nasty things to Miguel if he tries to apply it. So let's have him start doing the move right here. You can see the wall stun right there. I can easily react to this and do a counter hit low, which is going to cancel the armor property of this move and give me guaranteed damage on the ground. But of course, I can also just move, and this move is so crappy against movement, I can wait, comfortably confirm that this is the move that is coming. I can even get hit by the down forward one and wait and for a significant while before I start moving and still evade. I can even, if I'm fast enough, actually attack into this move and still comfortably evade it. So I can attack into this, see that it's happening, and then attack Miguel on the back and blow him up. I can walk all the way around and do a back throw and get 60 damage, no problem right here. So this move is absolute trash. And if you're playing against somebody who's sharp and who knows that this property exists, you are basically opening up yourself for a guaranteed launch by trying to apply it at all. This is like one of the worst fucking moves ever, right? Now, the move has technically been buffed because it does this thing now where before it was even worse. Because it used to be punishable on block. This giant dog shit ass wind up move actually used to be punishable, which it isn't anymore. So the move is buffed, at least on paper, but that doesn't mean that the move isn't completely useless and way too risky to be applied in any serious way. Now, there are some cases where the wall stun move will actually be pretty good or have some sort of positive impact for having been implemented. So let's find Katarina, for example. And I said in my early videos on the patch that I thought Katarina got one of the better moves for doing this, but again, it's not nearly as useful or as impactful as you might think. So for Katarina, her new move is the, and let's switch the positioning back right here. Let's see here, switch positions off. It's the back one too, which looks like this. You can see the stagger right here. This one happens on hit, of course. Now, this move has always been a safe mid string for Katarina. It's pretty good. Before, if you collected a hit with it, you got +5, which means that you still, again, same situation. If you get a hit with a move in this game that gives you a significant chunk of advantage, the next thing you do is you mix. And so what Katarina likes to do, of course, is go for some sort of wall splat mid, mixed with a low. This low is significantly powerful at the wall. It gives you guaranteed stuff. But if I had +5 right here, which I would get from this move before the patch was implemented, I've got 3-4. That's a 14 frame, so uninterruptible in that situation, wall splatting mid. So I can actually do an uninterruptible wall splatting mix-up with this exact move before the wall stun property existed. Now, of course, the mix-up situation is buffed by having this stagger, because the stagger means that the opponent is like completely locked down. They can't really move away, they can't really do much, they have to deal with the mix-up, whereas with +5, that is not as powerful of a mix-up situation. So it gives the situation a little bit more juice and makes it a bit more claustrophobic for the opponent, but again, the mix-up was there before the change and it's there after the change, so it doesn't feel like an impactful new mechanic. It doesn't feel like it's doing much, and that's on Katarina, who got one of the better moves that has this mechanic in the entire game. I should also mention that I've tested dealing with this mechanic on the receiving end. You can still comfortably parry lows. Like if I do this and I start going for lows, my staggered opponent can parry those lows and deal with the mix-up still. Another interesting thing that happens is a lot of fast highs, because of the stagger, go over the opponent, and they have a little bit of a high crush during that stagger, of course. They're not forced into crouch. They're not forced into a crouched state here at all, but they are, because of this animation, crushing highs for a while. So say, for example, that you wanted to go for like a 1-1 into a Harrier mix-up here. That's not great. You'd probably rather go for a mid. But you can't really go for highs after this, whereas if you had normal advantage before with this move, you could use highs reliably as a part of what you wanted to do next. And again, you could argue, why would you want to go for a high? It just makes it lower than mid. I sort of get it. Are there any new wall stagger or wall stun moves that are really good and really do something for you? I've tested like all the characters, and there are some out there that I think can be impactful, but they are few and far between and not nearly as useful as you might suppose. But I think Jack got one of the better moves with this property, because this charged up back two actually used to be negative, which it isn't anymore when it gets blocked. Let's have Katarina block it right here so you can see the stun. Let's put her to standing guard. So you can tell that it has significant range. It pushes the opponent into the wall and stuns them for this situation. And because Jack has these really long arms, he can actually effectively mix and do stuff here, and it can be quite powerful. So I think this move is one of the better ones. But for your wall stun move to actually be a meaningful buff to your character, you first have to ask the question, did my move wall splat or knock down before the patch was implemented? Because if it did, your move is now much, much worse. If it didn't do either of those things, then it is now improved in a sense. But if it gave you advantage and gave you mix-up situations in the open, those mix-up situations in the open might now be jeopardized because of the increased pushback of this being implemented. So if that didn't happen, and your move is pretty good and likely to hit, unlike Miguel, when you're at the wall like this, and you have significant mix-up potential at the wall, not all characters do in that way, then maybe you're going to be able to occasionally make use of this mechanic. Think about Miguel standing here at the wall. Yeah, he can do a bunch of mids, but he doesn't have these giant knockdown lows for big damage at the wall. He's more of a low poke kind of character, unless he wants to go into manual savage and do stuff from there. But let's talk a little bit about Miguel, actually, because I think it's one of the most interesting situations and one of the most useless moves I have ever even heard of. Because, okay, let's consider the situation that I'm at the wall and pressuring my opponent with Miguel right here, and I'm in savage stance, importantly. So say I go in here, and now I'm in savage stance. Okay, so why would I wind up this giant chunk of dog shit for a mid when I can right away here go for a Savage 2, which is a big, really powerful wall splatting mid that is safe on block and gives me full combos if it connects and I get big damage. Or I could go for the new Savage up for 3 in this situation, which also gives me big damage, but is also a counter hit launcher now. 15 frames to impact. It's lightning quick. You might say, well, Frame, this move has armor. Maybe you're going for the armor. But if you want armor, go for a Savage back 3. Safe on block armor move from Savage. That's straight up wall splats. And I think thinking about wall splats and comparing the wall stun situation to a wall splat is actually where you really start to notice the distinct lack of power in this mechanic. Because a wall splat, and a lot of characters have very fast, pretty safe homing wall splatting mids, right? A wall splat is so much better than this wall stun. I would say that it's more than 3 times better, because you're going to get a full wall combo and then you're going to apply extremely dangerous Oki on top of that. And if you successfully mix the post wall combo Oki, you might wall splat again. You might splat your opponent on the side and start carrying to a different wall and do like a completely other combo. There's so much more potential and power in the wall splat and in the wall bounce, let's be honest, that it overshadows this new shitty mechanic in every way. And so I think you have to play very specific characters with very specific move implementation from the patch, and with very specific mix-ups to ever even have like significant advantage for using this at all. So I think, like I said, it's a gust of hot air that doesn't really do anything, and that sort of begs the question, why did Namco put this in the game, right? A joke I said on my stream was that it feels like they were sitting around a table and saying, we want to include a new mechanic with this new patch. Does anybody have any ideas? And everybody in the room just went, sorry, I really don't. I really have no new ideas. And then somebody who doesn't really play Tekken said, well, how about when you hit with a move, it gives you a mix-up and a bunch of advantage. And nobody in the room pointed out that that is what already happens all the time when you hit with moves in Tekken. It's not really a new mechanic. One theory I have, and I kind of like this theory, I think I might be right about it, is that you look at these very powerful moves that got a lot worse by having the wall stun thing added to them. I think it might actually have been a way of nerfing these moves without really getting the full backlash of having nerfed them. Kind of, we're taking all these fantastic knockdown and wall splat moves and we're making them so much weaker, but it's not a nerf because we're adding in this new mechanic that gives you potential mix-ups and stuff. It's kind of like trying to put a bit of strawberry jam on the dog turd and maybe fool some people. Problem is, a lot of people who play Tekken understand Tekken really, really well, and it only took veteran players across the world couple of minutes or a couple of hours to realize that this new mechanic doesn't really do much. It is still a fascinating inclusion, but I'm not super excited about it. And on the characters I play, with the potential exception of Katarina, I might actually never use it. But some characters got moves that maybe are a little bit cool and could do something. Jack, Lars, I bet there are a couple of others. But if you play one of those characters in the roster, and there were many of them that literally got no new changes in the patch except for this property being added to one of their moves, and that might not even have been a move they wanted added to, this patch must feel really pointless. Now, I was happy because some of my characters changed in powerful ways. Katarina got better, Miguel got a bit better. I'm getting into Leo right now, which is interesting. I think that character launching with down 4-2 is one of the most significant changes to the character ever. So, you know, I'm kind of happy with the patch, but I think for most people, nothing really happened, and I think it's sinking in now that the mechanic also isn't anything. So there you go. But it's fun to be in a new patch and play the game. I mean, I didn't expect this game to get any more updates, so, you know, I'm not unhappy about it. And again, I'm not trying to be recreationally critical here, but I think I've made my point. I think this new mechanic is completely pointless and kind of trash. But there you go. I'm probably wrong about it. Point out why in the comments. Thank you so much for watching my video on a Saturday, and I'll see you guys again very soon.